Disappear from your hometown. Go and find the people that you know. Show them all of your good parts. Leave town when the bad ones start to show. Go and wed a woman, a pretty girl that you never met. Make sure she knows you love her well, but don't make any other promises.
What's up, y'all? Good morning. It's a beautiful day up here on the mountain. The rain showers drenched us all night long, and we're getting a little bit of sunshine to start the day off. So this week you are finishing your projects. You're gonna film yourself pitching your idea to potential investors or to someone that could be a customer. And that will be the end of your project, and that is pretty much the end of your grade 8 year. So as you know, all good things must come to an end, and every end is a new beginning. It's good to finish chapters and start new ones in life. It's good to read a new story from time to time. So let's look back on everything we've done this year. When you guys first came to me, we started to say at the beginning of each class, it's a great day to be alive. That's also the time when I introduced you to a team that you may know.
There ain't never been a 15-0 team.
They're from like the upstate of South Carolina.
And I know we're not supposed to be here. We're just little old Clemson.
They've won 2 of the past 4 national championships.
We beat Notre Dame and Alabama.
It's not a big deal. I don't like to talk about it that much, but I just thought, you know, it seemed appropriate to mention it to you at this moment.
And how about them Tigers?
Our first unit was called Psychology and Well-Being. And in this unit, we looked at a number of different things, but the idea was trying to figure out, what do you want to do with this life? What is your purpose? And you wrote a manifesto. Some of the biggest ideas from that unit were the idea of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the idea of achieving self-actualization, how most people get stuck on level 4, which is self-esteem. That was the same unit where we saw that show Atlanta, and we saw Earn dealing with the embarrassment of wearing a shirt that wasn't really the correct shirt.
Hey everybody, this man got on Phoebe.
And then in our second unit, this unit was called Perception and Worldview. We looked at the idea of up, and if there is a such thing as up or down or upside down, and we talked about how, as an example, in space, there is no upside down, right? If you're standing on the South Pole, do you feel like you're upside down? We watched The Truman Show, one of my favorite movies, and by the end of the unit, you may have been asking yourself,
was nothing real?
So the point of that unit was to question, how do we know what we know, or do we really know what we think we know? And I think that is supposed to give perspective. It's supposed to humble you and remind you that a wise person knows that they don't know. I think we're kind of living in a world where everyone thinks they have the right answer, when that is very seldom the case. Eventually, in considering how do we know what we know, we started to question, well, how does our culture shape the way that we see things? And the question shifted to, what does it mean to be Latino? What does it mean to be Tico? And ultimately, what does it mean to be you? And so to explore that concept, we looked at this concept called foodways, and we questioned, how does our food tell our history? How does it tell our story on a national scale and just on a personal basis? So that's where I made coffee for you guys. And then you guys, of course, made your own favorite dishes and brought those in. And that for me was a personal highlight of the year. In the third unit, we were supposed to be looking at revolutions. We watched a film called The Hate You Give.
Don't move! Haley! Look at me and stop crying! That's what it's like.
I think a lot of that impacted you guys. I know last year, a lot of my students said that was their favorite movie. But the whole idea for that unit was to consider who has power in society and why do they have power. But then we had a true revolution happen when COVID-19 hit.
This virus does not respect borders.
And we kind of embarked on our own revolution of distant learning, right, of e-learning. And so now we finally made it to our fourth and final unit of the year, one that I call happiness. And that's where we come full circle. But the big idea is kind of reminding yourself about your manifesto, considering, what are your talents, what is your steps, your strengths, your talents, your ethics and passions, And what's a job that would make you truly happy? And so with that idea in mind, you designed a business, hopefully a business that aligns with who you are as a person and the impact that you want to have on this world. And so now all that is coming to an end. So some final thoughts on the year that I want to share with you. A lot of you started grade 7 with me and we were watching the show Avatar. But here's something that I never told you that I need you to understand. You are the avatar. When you look in the mirror, you should be conscious that there is a line of thousands, hundreds of thousands of women and men before you that stretch all the way back to the beginning, that have traversed the worst things that this universe and planet could throw at our species. But it's not about being against the universe or the planet. It's about working in communion with it. And all of that has brought you to the present, to this moment, here and now. And so the biggest news I have for you guys is that I will not be back at Lincoln next year. My wife and I have decided that we're going to move on from Costa Rica at the end of the school year. I'm sure some of you will be sad by that, and it makes me sad, of course, but I learned from a beautiful song one time, it's not about running away from things, it's running to things when you leave somewhere, right? So we have big plans for the future. Next year I will not be working in education. I'm going to take a hiatus from being a teacher, at least in a formal sense. And I'm going to be exploring other side projects, art projects, if you will. I'm also looking at starting a business, and I'm also considering getting a PhD. So sometimes we have to walk into the darkness to see the light. You have to go into the unknown to figure out what the next step is going to be, and that's more or less what we're doing. I'm trying to basically do what I've encouraged you guys to do all along, which is to follow your path, figure out what your destiny is, and make it happen. I do have some final thoughts for you, a final lesson, if you will. Most people, as you know, will never achieve their true potential. And it's because there are two things that cripple humanity. These two things are the Achilles heels of humanity, if you will. And they are fear and apathy. The apathy basically means laziness, the lack of motivation. So what is the opposite of apathy? Inspiration, passion, purpose. You figure out what you're here to do and you do it. You don't doubt it. On the other side, we've got fear. Think about all of the irrational fears that often control our lives. You want to put on a hat, but you're scared of what people might say because you're not the type of person that would wear that hat. Or you have to give a speech before people and you're afraid they might make fun of you. Most of us are dominated by irrational fears that make no sense. And so what's the opposite of fear? Most people think it's courage, but it's not. The opposite of fear is love. Love. If you have love in your heart, and if you are doing what you are doing out of a spirit of love, everything will work out as it should. And so it's with that message of love that I left my home 10 years ago and started traveling the world. But ever since my son was born, it's been clear to me that my main duty is to be with my family as much as possible and to be my son's teacher. So with that spirit in mind, we are returning to South Carolina to manifest that lifestyle. I will continue to philosophize and spread love and investigate and share all of the things that I'm fascinated about that you've always loved in class through this channel. So if you want to keep up with us, please subscribe. Man, it's been such an incredible journey. And this is not goodbye. My son is Tico, and I know that we will be back here. We love this country, and I love you guys. If you ever need anything, please reach out to me. And remember, every day is a great day to be alive.
You to every town, 'cause nothing happens here that doesn't happen there. So when you run, make sure you run to something and not away from, 'cause lies don't need an aeroplane to chase you anywhere.